Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we have a truly inspiring story to share with you. It's the legendary tale of a remarkable woman whose journey from slavery to becoming an acclaimed poet is nothing short of extraordinary. So in this video, we will talk about the legendary story of Phillis Wheatley, a born writer. Let's start. Early life. Phillis Wheatley was born in West Africa around 1753 and brought to America as a slave when she was just a young girl. Her early life was marked by the profound challenges faced by enslaved people during that era. To fully appreciate her remarkable journey and accomplishments, it's crucial to understand the historical context in which she lived. At the time of her birth, the transatlantic slave trade was at its height. Millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homes, transported across the Atlantic Ocean under brutal conditions, and sold into slavery in the Americas. Phillis Wheatley's own journey reflects this tragic history. She arrived in Boston, Massachusetts, where she was purchased by the Wheatley family, a prominent and relatively progressive household. The Wheatley family recognized her exceptional intelligence and potential, which set the stage for her incredible transformation. However, it's important to note that her early years as an enslaved person were undoubtedly fraught with hardship and the harsh realities of bondage. Enslaved people were considered property and were subjected to dehumanizing treatment, including forced labor, physical abuse, and the denial of basic human rights. Education. Phillis Wheatley's education was largely self-taught. She was taught to read and write by the Wheatleys, and she also learned about Christianity and classical literature. She was a quick learner, and she soon became proficient in both English and Latin. Wheatley's education was unusual for an enslaved person in the 18th century. Most enslaved people were not allowed to learn to read or write, and they were often denied access to education altogether. However, the Wheatleys were progressive thinkers, and they believed that Phillis should have the same opportunities as any other child. Wheatley's education was also important because it helped her develop her writing skills. She was able to read the works of many great poets, and she was inspired by their work. She began to write her own poems, and she soon developed a unique and powerful voice. She was able to overcome the challenges of her circumstances and achieve great things. She is an inspiration to all who know her story. Poetry. Phillis Wheatley's journey into the world of poetry is a captivating chapter in her remarkable life story. Her talent for writing poetry emerged at a young age and soon captured the attention of literary circles in colonial America. At the age of 14, Phillis Wheatley penned her first published poem, titled An Elegiac Poem, on the death of that celebrated divine George Whitefield. This poem was a tribute to George Whitefield, a prominent evangelical preacher who had a significant influence on American religious life during the Great Awakening. The publication of this poem marked the beginning of her poetic career and drew widespread acclaim. Her early poems displayed a sophistication and command of language that defied her age and background. It was clear to all who read her work that Phillis Wheatley possessed a genuine gift for poetry. Her poems often touched on themes of religion, morality, and the human condition, reflecting the prevailing intellectual and spiritual currents of her time. Perhaps one of her most famous poems is On Being Brought from Africa to America, where she reflects on her own experience as a young African girl brought to the American colonies as a slave. This poem highlights her complex relationship with her identity, her African heritage, and her new life in America. Later life. Phillis Wheatley's later life was marked by financial difficulties, personal tragedy, and ill health. She was unable to find a publisher for her second book of poetry, and she was forced to rely on the charity of her friends and family. She also suffered from tuberculosis, and she died at the young age of 31. In 1778, Wheatley married John Peters, a free black man. However, their marriage was not happy. Peters was not able to provide for Wheatley and their two children, Nathaniel and Phyllis, who both died young. Wheatley's financial situation became increasingly difficult, and she was forced to sell her belongings and move in with her friends. Wheatley's health also began to decline in the early 1780s. She suffered from tuberculosis, and she was also weakened by childbirth. She died in poverty in 1784 at the age of 31. Despite the challenges of her later life, Phillis Wheatley never gave up hope. She continued to write poetry, and she used her voice to speak out against slavery and injustice. She was a true pioneer, and her work helped to pave the way for future generations of African American writers. Legacy. Phillis Wheatley's legacy is a lasting one. She was the first African American to publish a book of poetry, and her work helped to break down stereotypes about Black people. Her poems are still read and studied today, and she is considered to be one of the most important figures in African American history. Wheatley's poems were praised by many of her contemporaries, including George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. She was a strong advocate for abolition, and she wrote several poems about the evils of slavery. Her poems were also praised for their beauty and their originality. She was a talented poet who wrote in a variety of genres, including sonnets, odes, and elegies. Wheatley's work was also controversial in her own time. Some people questioned her ability to write poetry because she was an enslaved woman. They argued that she must have been helped by her white masters. However, Wheatley defended herself, and she insisted that she was the author of her own poems. The controversy surrounding Wheatley's work continued after her death. Some people continued to believe that she was not the true author of her poems. However, the majority of scholars now agree that Wheatley was a talented poet who wrote her own poems. Wheatley's legacy is a powerful one. She was a pioneer in African American literature, and her work helped to pave the way for future generations of African American writers. Her poems continue to inspire and uplift people today, and she is a reminder that anything is possible if we set our minds to it. Phillis Wheatley's extraordinary journey from enslaved girl to celebrated poet and abolitionist is a testament to the indomitable human spirit. Her legacy continues to shine as a beacon of resilience, intelligence, and the power of literature to change the world. We hope this video has shed light on the remarkable life of a woman who defied the odds and made history. If you found this story as inspiring as we did, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Remember, the stories of those who paved the way for justice and equality are a vital part of our shared history. Keep exploring, stay curious, and let's honor the legacy of Phillis Wheatley by striving for a better, more inclusive world. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history, and we will see you in the next video.